Welcome to Media Melanie Talks TV. I'm Melanie, and today I'm back to talk about The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1 on HBO Max. It's called Future Days, which is aptly named given the fact that we get a 5-year time jump. Joel and Ellie have arrived in this Jackson, Wyoming settlement. They are among a big group of people, including Joel's brother Tommy, his sister-in-law, his nephew, and Ellie's made some friends too. It does seem like, wow, she has taken on this badass type of mentality. Did anybody else kind of get Carl from The Walking Dead vibes? That teenage angst. And yeah, she's 19, but probably immature for her age, given the fact of, where she's grown up. At the same time, very mature, given the fact that she also uses weapons and kills things. That fight scene with her training in the barn, I was like, is this real? Is she actually fighting somebody for a training fight? I mean, that seemed pretty intense to me. And that intensity is part of what's fueling this divide between her and Joel. I've also got to imagine, because they showed us Joel confirming that he was not lying to Ellie about what transpired in the hospital when he saved her and shot all those people. Eventually she must have found out, right? And that's why she's so angry with Joel, who is now in therapy with Gail. Catherine O'Hara enters The Last of Us chat, and we knew she was getting cast, but I just always love to see her in anything at all. She's also in the studio right now on Apple TV Plus, so give me all the Catherine O'Hara. I am here for it. Speaking of new characters, we also met Abby. We got a flashback to her setting the table for her vengeance tour against Joel, and she's played by Caitlin Dever, who actually recently appeared in Apple Cider Vinegar on Netflix, which was a really great miniseries on the dark side of influencers based on a true story. That was a great show. If you haven't watched it, I actually have a short up so you can catch that. But before we get more into my review of this episode of The Last of Us, please be sure you go ahead, hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I am also covering another dark show, The Handmaid's Tale, on Hulu, along with a new dramedy on Apple TV Plus starring John Hamm called Your Friends and Neighbors. So stick with me for more TV talk, and I will also be here talking about The Last of Us every week. So, what did everybody think of this episode? Overall, I do think it's a strong start to the season. They're really setting the table for allowing us to meet these new characters, making sure some dramatic tension is on the way. The group with Abby arrives at the end, and they can see the settlement in the distance. They can see the lights. It looks like a pretty fair-sized group of people, so I'm not sure how many episodes it will take for them to actually reach there and what their plan is when they get there and how reinforced they are in this Jackson, Wyoming settlement. We know that they have guns, there's patrols, there's gate duty, so it does seem like there is some sort of sense of security. But when you have characters like Ellie and her friend Dina, who does seem like they're developing into a romantic relationship, I mean, they seem pretty unserious about things. They show up late for the patrol. They end up kind of breaking the rules going into this building, which ends up getting Ellie bit. And with that bite, something I've been wondering, we know that Ellie is immune, but does cordyceps mutate like a typical virus? Eventually, will there be some sort of mutation that maybe she is not immune to? I guess we'll probably find out, given the fact she did get bit. You could see her cutting into her skin and stitching it back up, which is just disgusting. And the badassery of Ellie this season. And this whole badassery thing, I think a lot of it does have to do with her being a teenager, right? We have Joel in therapy with Gail, again, Catherine O'Hara, fantastic. And she's like, hey, you're here with the most boring problem in the world, one of the oldest things. Oh, poor you grumpy old dad who's dealing with teenage things. Ellie is now 19, the year is 2029, and life seems pretty good in this Jackson, Wyoming settlement. I mean, they've got cannabis, they've got music, they've got alcohol, they've got New Year's Eve celebrations. Life is not that bad. Ellie is taking things to the next level, though, and seriously, the Carl Walking Dead vibes. Now, I had stopped watching The Walking Dead. I was kind of burnt out on it, but I do have a lot of other post apocalyptic shows in my roster, including Silo. I did cover season 2 of that show. Paradise, which has a whole different approach on the post apocalyptic life. And I really enjoyed Fallout as well, which is another video game adaptation. And speaking of that, I am not a gamer. I am unfamiliar with this world of The Last of Us from a video game standpoint. So, if you know the story and these characters, please don't spoil it down in the comments because I am approaching this as a TV watcher, a TV viewer who is reviewing the show. So, thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'm here for the suspense every week and to see exactly what this show is going to deliver. And based on the way it started for the second season, we've got a total of 7 episodes, which makes me think the pacing is going to be on point. And there is nothing better than an appropriate pace with just the right amount of episodes. So I am quite optimistic that this season is going to be total fire. Some humorous elements I appreciated here. When Dina and Ellie were inside that building that they really weren't supposed to be in, the silent hand signals and the facial expressions, I love that. And that's something I relate to. I work as a stage manager for the San Diego Padres, and a lot of times broadcasters are on the air, they have their headphones on, so there's a lot of like lip reading and signals. So I kind of giggled out loud at that, not only because they were funny in the scene itself, but also because I relate to that. And I think it's great when you can have this sort of nonverbal communication, which is absolutely essential in this world because these clickers are supposed to be blind, but they do respond to sound. Now, that said, it seems like that clicker that they encountered or that Ellie encountered in that abandoned building does seem to be a different breed, which speaks to my question again about mutation. If these clickers are becoming smarter, they can strategize. Is it possible that this virus is also mutating to make them smarter, to make them harder to deal with? If they do have limited resources, all of the refugees are coming there and there's not enough space to put them, will they end up being able to have enough weapons to fight them off and fend them off? But not only the clickers, because now we know there's another threat on the way with Abby and her group who are coming to get revenge on Joel. I've got to say, one of my favorite moments was when Ellie and Dina were slow dancing and they ended up kissing. That grumpy old dude is like, hey, this is a family event. And yeah, maybe they shouldn't have been making out. But he had no reason to use that derogatory term. That was not okay. And when Joel came flying in and just knocked him down, I was so here for that. Of course, Ellie's like, hey, look, I don't need you to do this. And I think in some sense, too, she's like, you're not my dad, right? She moved into the garage. Joel is trying so hard to connect with her, though. So something I would really like to see this season is Ellie and Joel being able to come back together, and whether or not Joel did end up coming clean about what he ended up doing, because Ellie made it a point to ask him point blank, hey, are you lying to me? And you know what? He was totally lying to her, yes, to protect her because he wanted to save her, but he never gave Ellie the actual choice to determine for herself if she would have wanted to sacrifice herself for the rest of humanity. And you know what? She was only 14 years old, so maybe she didn't have the capacity to make that decision, but it was her decision to make. That said, I really admire Joel because you know what? He is Ellie's father figure, the closest thing to a parent Ellie is ever going to have. So I hope that they can come together. This therapy will end up working for Joel. But then we saw a little bit of a dynamic between Catherine O'Hara's character, Gail the therapist, and Joel, because Joel apparently killed Eugene, her husband, who is supposed to be played by Joe Pantoliano, who, by the way, was also in Dexter Original Sin as a bad guy this past season. Fantastic. So I'm interested to see how that backstory develops as well. One quote that I extracted from here was, reality is nothing but a collective hunch. I thought that was really interesting because these post-apocalyptic times, reality is very different than it is now. We don't have media influencing us in any way, and it is all based on how everybody is collectively perceiving what the threats are, what the positives are, and how they come together to live and get along or not get along within their community. And speaking of the community, will they end up finding out that Ellie is immune to this? Or will we find out that maybe she's not as immune as we think and she ends up getting sick, but sick in a different way than perhaps other people who get bit if she does have part of this immunity? And also, given how unserious her and Dina were heading into this patrol, we hear the line in this episode as well when they're out on the hunt, "Oh, I think we're good." You know, anytime someone says, "I think we're good," usually things are not going to be good. And then when Dina tells Ellie to stay put, I'm sorry, but Ellie will never stay put, and it seems like she will never listen to anybody either. She is on her own path, her own agenda, and I just really hope that her and Joel are able to come together this season. The cinematography and set design were absolutely phenomenal in this episode, something I think we'll see throughout this entire season. Overall, I think this is a solid start to season 2. I'm really excited to see where it goes. Did you enjoy the episode? What are you thinking? Any predictions? Any questions? Make sure you drop them down in the comments. And again, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more TV talk. Media Melanie, clicking off.